This is Orlando Sentinel Now.
Hello and welcome. It's Thursday, February 17th, and this is Orlando Sentinel Now. Today, we're talking about COVID-19 vaccines for children under 5, plus Spanish moss. What the heck is it? We're going to go over that and more today. Joining me, I have Caroline Catherman, our health reporter, and Things to Do reporter, Patrick Connolly. I'm your host, Joe Mario Pedersen, and we've got a big show, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Caroline, coming to you first here for one of your latest. Parents of kids under 5 are in limbo after COVID-19 vaccine review is delayed. So that being said, Caroline, a lot of parents have this question on their mind of when exactly will the vaccine be made available for children under 5?
Ideally, it will be early April. That's probably the earliest that anyone is going to get access to it. Pfizer is currently collecting data on a third dose, a booster shot for kids under 5, and that data they estimate will be available in early April. There's always the chance that even with that third shot, they're going to decide that the vaccine for kids actually isn't effective enough, and in that case, it will be delayed even further, but ideally, beginning of April.
So, Carol, I wanted to ask you, just as far as those delays go, because so much of this depends on getting actual data. So, why has been getting data on this been so slow?
It's actually relatively been quick. Maybe for COVID, it's a little bit slower, but essentially, they are gathering data on this as fast as they can. And something that's actually really interesting is that we were so freaked out by the Omicron variant. It was sending so many kids to the hospital. The FDA essentially asked Pfizer to speed up its review process for this vaccine and send data before they were actually finished collecting it. The idea with that was that before a third shot was approved, we could get data on the first 2 shots, hopefully approve them, and then children could get their first 2 shots, and then the third shot would be approved by the time that they were fully vaccinated with their first 2.
Caroline, I'm wondering, what are you hearing from parents as far as the delay goes?
Yeah, I mean, it really varies. I talked to one mom who said she's sort of grateful for this delay because she doesn't want to have to make the decision on whether to vaccinate her 4-year-old. The trials do suggest that it's totally safe, but of course, there's always the tiny risk of something, going wrong. And there's also the concern of this woman where, I mean, with kids this young, they don't know what's going on when they get the shot side effects. Like that can be really scary for them. Another thing that I've heard is that some parents are really disappointed. They wanted the shot sooner. They're super eager to vaccinate their kids because they're worried about them, especially young kids. Just like old people aren't expected to mount like as good of an immune response as, people more in the middle of their lives. And so people are really anxious for that. But I think overall, people are happy because the fact that they're delaying this means that they are doing their due diligence and they're not going to approve this until there's enough research.
That being said, in the meantime, what is the best way that parents can protect their children?
Yeah, so honestly, it's everything we've been hearing over and over again. Masking, even in daycare, especially daycare, preschool, social distancing when possible, creating a safe, small bubble of people the child hangs out with that maybe don't have to wear masks. But as for people in the rest of the family that can get vaccinated, definitely they should be doing that because that's the best way to protect people who can't get vaccinated is to vaccinate all the people around them.
There you go. If you're looking for more answers on that story, take a look at Caroline's work right now at orlandosentinel.com. Caroline, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Patrick, I want to come over to you now for a little bit of lesson here on different plant growth here in Florida. Specifically, want to ask you about Spanish moss, which you took a dive into, exploring what it is, where it comes from, legends about it. But first of all, let's start with what is Spanish moss?
Well, I'll tell you this to start off. It's actually not a moss. It's called an epiphyte, which is an organism that grows on another plant and kind of just absorbs nutrients and water from the air and rain around it. And Spanish moss is found in particularly humid environments, specifically from very southern Virginia all the way to Texas, and of course that includes Florida. You'll find it in the tropical islands like the Bahamas and many tropical areas of Latin America as well. So it's very pervasive, and it kind of serves as a natural and cultural signal that you're in the South. I mean, you'll see it in very kind of humid, swampy places, and without fail, I think I've probably seen it on just about every hike that I go on. Usually found dangling from live oak and cypress trees, among others. Even yesterday, seeking to get a couple more photos of it, all I had to do was walk up the street near Lake Ivanhoe, and there was plenty of it to be found around there. And I even collected a strand from a tree that's right in my backyard to get some, closer up pictures. So it's really everywhere. You've probably seen it. So even if you didn't know what it was, well, now you know.
No, you're right. It truly is everywhere. In Thornton Park, I can name a few different streets that have Spanish moss over it. Now, one part of your story that I really found interesting was getting into the background of Spanish moss, and I guess the historical context, or I guess the legends really surrounding it, and how it got its name exactly. Can you tell us more about that?
We need to rewind a couple hundred years first. So the Native Americans called it tree hair. And now, in turn, there were different Spanish and French explorers that showed up. So at a certain point, the French began calling it Spanish beard, as it kind of reminded them of a, scraggly, scruffy, beard of a Spanish explorer. The Spanish, I mean, maybe kind of clapped back in a way. They called it French hair. Another word came about. People were calling it graybeard. Ultimately, Spanish moss is what stuck until this day. It was also introduced to Hawaii in the 19th century, and it's called over there Pele's hair, which refers to a Hawaiian goddess. But as I mentioned, so those are some of the historical, names and kind of origins of what we call it now. But again, as I mentioned, it's sort of it feels like kind of just a good signifier that like, oh, you're really in the South now. Like whenever you see the Spanish moss, dangling from trees.
Getting back to that clapback, that might be one of the most uninspired and uncreative responses I've ever seen or heard regarding a possible slight. But Patrick, Spanish moss, as you point out, is more than just an aesthetic or a look that humans find attractive. But you've pointed out that it's actually been pretty useful to humans. How so?
So Spanish moss was formerly used in car upholstery and furniture and mattress stuffing, you name it, building insulation, mulch, packing material. I mean, even further back than that, Native American dresses. It was used as an ingredient for mortar in houses. It can also be used as tinder for fires. Nowadays, you won't find it in mattresses or anything really, although it was known for keeping people exceptionally cool as it was used as a mattress filling material. But now you might find it in floral arrangements. You could use it with crafts, wreaths. I mean, whatever you want to do with it, really. But it's no longer being commercially harvested, especially as we have a lot of synthetic materials available to us. That's sort of whenever that went away. But really, as I kind of point out at the bottom of my story, the best way to enjoy it is probably just to observe it, dangling and swaying in the breeze. I had a friend visit from up north, from Ohio, a couple years ago, and I remember going to Craft Azalea Garden where there's just so many beautiful towering oak cypress trees and Spanish moss everywhere, and she was just so taken with it, like because I mean they don't make it up north, so.
No, there truly is something really beautiful about it. And now we have some knowledge to go along with that imagery as well. If you're looking to add on that, take a look at Patrick's full story at orlandosentinel.com. Patrick, thanks a lot. All right, before we leave you all today, we do want to talk about Thursday's weather presented by Premier Sotheby's International Realty. Ahead of the weekend cold front, Orlando residents will have to deal with rising temperatures Thursday. Orlando's peak temperature is predicted at 83 degrees, with the low falling to 61 in the evening. Thursday is expected to be mostly dry. A 10% chance of rain does exist in the forecast, with isolated showers possibly appearing in different areas around the region, but it is a slight chance. Rain chances increase slightly Friday afternoon ahead of a cooler weekend where temperatures will sink to the 50s Saturday night and into the next work week. But you can find out more about that forecast at orlandosentinel.com, along with the other stories that we talked about here today as well. For those of you who are subscribers to the Orlando Sentinel and supporting this kind of work, thank you for your support and supporting local journalism. If you want to become a subscriber, it's easy to do so. All you need to do is visit orlandosentinel.com/subscribe. But as for OSN, that will do it for us today. A big thank you to Caroline and Patrick for keeping us filled in what's going on in our community. We'll be back again real soon with more news. We'll see you then. Stay healthy and stay safe.
Watch Orlando Sentinel Now live every weekday at noon on our Facebook page and on orlandosentinel.com.